right, well, hello, everyone. I'll go ahead and share my screen. And first off, appreciate you guys taking time from your busy days to join us. Like Karen said, please put your questions in the Q&A section so I can actually see them directly instead of getting lost in the chat. But today we're going to be talking about donor stewardship, really after year end. Year end is here, which is pretty crazy. Thanksgiving's around the corner. And so we really wanted to have a webinar just about recurring giving and really thinking about all these new donors that we're potentially getting during this time. How are we then sustaining that through the new year, no matter what that timeline might be? I'm sure some of you might know Community Boost, but we exclusively work with nonprofits, and this is our mission here. We're really passionate about the nonprofit space and helping you guys accelerate. These are just some impact numbers that we have, and we currently work with over 200 and worked with hundreds over the past 9 years of our work. And I've personally been here going on 4 years. And so, as some of you guys have already done, I'm really curious about, what's your experience with recurring giving, whether you're just getting started, what specifically are you hoping to learn today, and also put more specific questions in the Q&A. In terms of myself, I am technically a certified nonprofit professional. I got my CNP certification a couple of years ago. And like Karen said, I am a digital specialist and an account executive here. So my role really is to connect with nonprofits and strategize around what makes sense for you, help you really understand where you're at, and obviously give suggestions. And we do partner with nonprofits as well. So I do work through that process. In terms of what we're going to be diving into today, I really want to just break down what are some staples of recurring giving. I do want to give you guys some kind of workshop time. So I highly recommend you guys bring out a notepad, your Google Docs, wherever you guys take notes, and really take time to brainstorm your programs. Recurring giving seems to be something that all nonprofits want to do, but it's kind of hard to carve out that time. But since you guys are carving out this time right now, why not just work on some of these actions? And then, of course, after we go through that, I'm really going to be talking about how to actually promote your recurring giving program, because that's the big chunk of it, right? And so, like I said, let's first start with power and key benefits of recurring giving. First off, I think everyone understands it's a bit more sustainable, but it's also really predictable. It's been really cool to see the data over the years, but there is such an increase of donor lifetime value in terms of the retention rate. It's a lot higher than one-time givers. And what's cool is that just different demographics like millennials are most likely to give less amount in a larger period of time. So it just makes it more accessible for some donors, especially if you're looking to diversify your donor base. And why? Like I said, it's affordable, right? By giving lower monthly options, it just immediately diversifies it. It's really a community. I think you'd be shocked around how much I give monthly to some programs and how much I don't feel like I'm a part of it other than just getting a receipt every month. So we really want to picture it as like a membership in a community that we're joining. And like I said, it's sustained support. On average, people do stay with you for a little bit over a year, which is a lot more predictable than kind of bigger one-time gifts. So why, which I think a lot of people understand why they should do it, it's the how. So first, it's building your program. People don't give money just to give money, but really successful programs have a lot of storytelling around them. And we really want to think about it as a membership. What am I getting in return for giving $10, $20, $30, $100 per month? It doesn't have to be a t-shirt, it could be just exclusive access or, client stories that are specifically for your monthly givers. And then of course you want to scale your program, using tools like Facebook and email automation. I'll talk about different channels that we recommend, is just getting your program out there. And then obviously sustaining your program is so important. One of the major benefits of recurring giving is the increased retention rate. So how are we really putting these monthly givers in their own kind of category, just like your major donors or major gifts, right? You treat them a little bit different. So let's do that with recurring givers. So I feel like hopefully you guys understand the why. And again, that's probably why you're here. But now let's focus on the how. So we really want to align on your message and your creative first. With your message, we really believe this is the center of truth where everything stems. I think some people get lost on, where in the journey to start, and we highly recommend just your message. And we really want it to kind of hit all these touch points, right? We want it to be hopefully around a story. We want it to be emotional. We want it to be relevant, right? And hopefully unique and impact centric. And so, it's one thing to say this, it's another thing to actually do the storytelling frameworks. This is where I would get out your pen or your pencil, or again, Google Docs, and really think about this phase, no matter where you are, and it might be a good time to revisit it as well. So for our storytelling framework, we really want to start off with our core tenets, is what we call it. Your core tenets have to do with what does it mean to provide funds to your program. An example is we ensure our youth is not defined by their worst experiences. This might be your mission or your vision, maybe just shortened, but really think about what does it mean for me to give you funds to then do X, your core tenets. The next is the why. Sometimes these can get mixed up a little bit, but by joining your recurring program, what happens? What do I get in return, or what is the feeling that you're trying to invoke in me, right? So our X program is a communities where our donors are a part of the change. Keep it simple and short. That's the why. And then primary emotions we want to invoke, right? Do we want to invoke hope, urgency, and community, and just really think about words that as an organization you guys really resonate with, and you can use this throughout your landing pages or sometimes your emails as well. And then, of course, potential names for your group. Some organizations already have this. If you do, feel free to actually share that in the chat, help people understand maybe what ideas come to mind. But I would write down, if you haven't, 2 to 5 names for the group. It can include your org name. It doesn't have to. For example, Charity Water uses the Spring as theirs. It's relevant to what they do, but it doesn't have their brand name in it, but it is relevant. So really picking a name, but also getting creative. It's not an end all be all, but hopefully involving some of your team members will help you really solidify what resonates the most. And of course, impact metrics. Now, we know that not all nonprofits have like a one-to-one model or, $25 gives X, but we would really highly encourage you to think about maybe broader numbers if you can. $25 allows for students to get connected to a teacher, or it allows, an X person to, access these programs. It doesn't have to be, I give $10 and a shoe is given, but really think about impact metrics, because in a donor's perspective, and I'm a donor, right, I kind of understand the tangible impact that I'm making if possible. So I want to pause there. I want to check the Q&A and see if I can answer a thing right now. So someone asked, defining recurring giving, is it the same as monthly giving? Yes, monthly giving is recurring. And then Hannah asks, how can I invite more recurring donors? We have at least a regular steady income. So Hannah, I'll be diving into that, into what channels that we recommend promoting recurring donors. Okay. And then the chat itself. Awesome. I'm loving all of these names. The Action Hero Club, Allies in Action, Life Anchors. Awesome. Sweet. Well, I will continue on here. And I'll actually answer one question from Kate. Do we recommend expanding to bi-weekly or weekly recurring gifts, or sticking to a monthly timeline? We recommend sticking to a monthly timeline, just because in this new day and age of subscription models, it typically is monthly, whether it's your Netflix, your Spotify, there's prescriptions on like health, if you take supplements every month. So we would definitely recommend keeping it monthly. And then Lily asked a great question, who from the organization should we be involving in the storytelling framework? That's a great question. Depending on if you're on the development team or the marketing team, I would always have someone in the development side, just because they understand your donors a bit more. They might understand branding as well, but also marketing understands your branding. So if I were to recommend 2 departments talking to each other, it'd be marketing and development, and then maybe your ED too, or your founder, if they are still there, and, really asking them an honest, quick question, why they started the organization. Because sometimes your mission and your vision can just be revisited or maybe told in a different way. Awesome. Well, we will continue on here. So hopefully this storytelling framework is helpful. Again, you guys will get a PDF of this, but definitely recommend you taking time on this, or if you guys are kind of, stumped in part of your process, revisiting this. So how do you build your campaign? We highly recommend you build a themed landing page, and I'll give an example of that. A flagship video would be awesome. It doesn't have to be for like your monthly giving program, but it can just be a video that you guys have created. Again, like I said, impact metrics are always great. We always want to think of this private tribe idea. How am I, joining an exclusive group? And then incentivize engagements. Again, what am I getting in return? Am I getting more than just a thank you email? Am I getting exclusive access, specific updates? How can you make me feel like I'm a part of community? So this talks a little bit about our landing page that we've done with some of our organizations. We really believe that it's just clear, concise, and creative. It's really, really helpful just to have one that has just your monthly giving here. And obviously, there's a lot of different examples of this. These are impact metrics done with Fundraise Up. Different platforms obviously are easier here and there. But now that we understand kind of the why of our messaging, now it's the how, right? How to actually market and scale your program. So before I go into that, I wanted to answer one question from Lynn asking, with credit card fees in mind, what minimum monthly amount do we recommend? That's a good question. I think at minimum $10, potentially 15, potentially 20. It depends on what demographic you're going for. Some platforms like Fundraise Up offer different monthly, options depending on who's actually like going there. But I would say minimum maybe 15. And also just punch your numbers with the credit card fees in mind, and remind yourself that on average, people are staying for about 13 months. So see if it's really weighing out, because some donors will give 50, 100 per month, but depending on, again, who you're trying to diversify to, usually it's about, $5 up to like $30 per month. Awesome. So going back to our how and marketing our actual program. So these are just some of the top marketing channels that we recommend. Are your email marketing, really getting that honed in. We highly recommend Facebook and Instagram ads to actually get your story out there in a very predictable way. Organic social media is always important. We also highly recommend YouTube and display ads, specifically YouTube ads if you do already have a strong video. That way you can just expose yourself in a quicker way. Of course, there's Google Ad Grants, which is great, direct outreach, and obviously peer-to-peer empowerment. But I'm going to go ahead and break down these first three. So the first one that we want to think about and probably start at is just your email marketing. If you do not have an email series set up, and an email series is basically an automated like trigger in which like people go through different funnels depending on their actions, we highly recommend you create that with your email provider. Most do have that option. Obviously, segmenting is very crucial, right? Are these first-time donors? Are they long-term donors, lapsed donors, or major gifts, right? And we really want to have different messaging for those people. But if you were to start on any, I would highly recommend on first-time donors and then lapsed donors, and just start with 2 email series, about 4 to 5 emails each series. And of course, we want to test out content strategy, right? Utilize video, maybe have it short and sweet, maybe have a story-centric kind of email, and really focusing on just your 2 automated email series to begin with. Another channel that we recommend is Facebook and Instagram ads. This is probably one of the biggest channels to kind of expedite your marketing process. And we highly recommend the hyper-targeting capabilities within the paid ads. We do not recommend boosted posts. It's limited in what you can target. But we recommend you guys following what we call this 3-tiered approach, where we're slowly taking out people and retargeting them and making sure that, we're actually telling them of your org first, we're converting them potentially to an email subscriber first. And then the 3rd tier is then like thanking them either for giving if they did give. We want to test out specific messaging and calls to action. Definitely utilize video creative if you do have it, and really take advantage of the existing viral effect. And so sometimes when we mean by this, you don't need to reinvent the wheel with your content. There's some things on your organic page that has already gotten attention. So you can go ahead and just use that post and actually create it into an ad and then do different variations of them as well. To the right here is an example of Souls for Souls, 2 different ads that we ran for them. As you can see here, we're A/B testing the length of it, different photos and videos as well. The last channel that we highly recommend is just organic social media, right? Really just showcase and these stories. I think so many times we're asking people for things, but people love stories, and really share this with them. Definitely use a memorable hashtag throughout, consistency, right? And get your audience involved if you can, share their stories, tagging you. And ultimately we want to know that the supporters that we're supporting our supporters as well. And what's cool too is that you guys can create a specific Facebook group just for your recurring donors, which would just take it to a next level. So just to kind of recap, part 1 is aligning on your creative. We created this very kind of simple acronym, serves for you guys to follow. And then part 2 is marketing. And like I said, I didn't go into YouTube ads or display ads very specifically, but it's quite effective and a little bit cheaper. On the Facebook side, we recommend about $500 to $1,000 per month of ad spend. With YouTube, you could just start with $500 a month. And really the power of YouTube and display is it's a really big exposure and over a short amount of time, and you're essentially able to create remarketing list very quickly to then use on other platforms like Facebook, like search. So I will pause there and field some more questions. Somebody asked from HubCycle, are you able to share some ideas on how to build an email list? Yes, so there's a couple of ways. First, conversion design on your site, like conversion design, like a pop-up. Be very sensitive about these pop-ups. We use a platform called Sumo, S-U-M-O, where we can trigger it if they've been on your site for 30 seconds or a minute, and always give them the option to opt out. People don't care for these, right? So if you're immediately having the pop-up right when I pop on your site, I guarantee you that your conversion rate isn't high. So conversion design is one. Second is Facebook and Instagram ads. There's so many on-platform options with all the iOS 14 updates, one of them being instant forms. Highly recommend that, where you can just ask someone, stay in the know, and you can just enter in your name and your email right there. So those are just 2 options. And then somebody asked how long an email series should be specifically for year end. We recommend about 4 to 5 emails, and once a week, not every day. People don't like that. Or maybe like twice a week, potentially. I think for year end, I would say upwards of 2 times a week, right? But don't forget the gratitude part. I think so many organizations forget to thank their donors, but then remind them, maybe after Giving Tuesday, all of December still is important. And then Sarah asked, would you get a marketing company involved or do it yourself? It's a balance. It depends on your resources. We have a lot of nonprofit partners reach out to us, and we manage it because it's honestly cheaper for them to then have someone internally trying to figure out all of these channels like Facebook that is constantly changing. We typically have about 3 to 4 full-time people in just each channel. So they're not simple to perform, but again, it depends on your budget, your guys' bandwidth, but a lot of nonprofits do outsource their marketing, especially on their paid side, because it's a bit more effective if you just have that's an expert in it, especially if you're going to be spending ads. Great. I will look in the chat. Awesome. All right, well, we will continue here. Again, if you guys have questions, actually put them in the Q&A. That way I can see it a little bit easier. And so the next thing I wanted to go through is really looking at the timeline, at least of what we do for our recurring giving program. See where your team is at and get action items going with our checklist. Like, just pick one thing to commit to tackle just this week. Again, so many nonprofits, I think, want to do it or don't know where to start, but just focused on one thing. So I wanted to share with you guys our personal timeline that we use here. So we typically give ourselves about 3 months to do this work. Month 1, we take quite a bit of time just on the storytelling piece because it's very important. It's like what everything else will stem upon. So don't rush this part, write it down, come back to it in a day or 2, involve other people if you wish, and really understand and bring in the branding and the persona of your donors. Who are they? Who do you want them to be? Really think about the messaging there. Also, we highly recommend just setting up your tracking and your tech during this time. You guys would be surprised how long it might take. There might be custom coding involved, especially if you're doing promotions through Facebook, through Google. You want to understand actually the numbers of your efforts. So take time here, as it usually does, lag throughout the 3 months to actually get it solidified. Month 2, really focus on just your email series and your landing page. I guarantee it will take up quite a bit of time. And like I said, start with just 2 email series. One, we highly recommend a welcome series where it's just like, hey, welcome Janae to our monthly giving program. We're so excited to have you, and kind of put me through, introduce me to the org, introduce me to a story of impact, and tell me other ways I can get involved. And then we highly recommend like a one-time donor to a monthly donor series. So I'm imagining many nonprofits here have a lot of donors, one-time donors. So create one just for them and introduce the monthly giving program that you created. Help them understand what it means to have sustained support, and go ahead and feel free to tell them, what they're going to get if they do join. Second is your landing page, that we highly recommend that you really use your story framework in the why within. Take your time on this landing pages. Sometimes landing pages can take you less than a day to do, maybe a couple hours to do, but certainly create a landing page for your recurring giving program by itself. Month 3, we highly recommend kind of a soft launch to your current donors, kind of see what they say, maybe ask for their feedback too, and just really test it out with them. Maybe test out the one-time and monthly giving series, test out your tracking, right? And then really when you get that solidified, halfway through the 3rd month, launch your campaign, do it through Facebook ads, do it through email, and really get the word out there. Because if people don't know who you guys are or what you do, how do you expect them to become monthly givers, right? Awesome. So that's our timeline. And this is one of the last pieces here, is just our checklist. I highly recommend you guys taking this in back house and seeing what you have. Start again with your theme of your giving program. Really take time for your tech integrations, your email automations, your reporting, Google Analytics, right? Understanding what's happening with these platforms. Create your 2 email series at minimum. Make sure that you're segmenting these people. Make sure that we have different creative, potentially different call to actions. And then take your time with your recurring giving landing page. Really include the hook, the why, impact metrics. Logo creation is kind of like a plus. We find it helpful to use. You don't have to have it, but it is something that we include in our checklist. And then really take your time on the marketing strategy for scaling. Pick out which ones. Obviously, you guys can connect with us. We can give you recommendations, but have a plan to promote, or else all of this time that you've spent on it, may not be as big of a return because you're not marketing it. So that is our main checklist here. And let me see if there's Q&As I can answer. Okay. Someone is asking best advice to start this segmentation process. They have quite a bit of contacts and they're not segmented, but it's overwhelming. That's a good question. I honestly would contact your email provider, where that's their job, is to help you guys figure out how to best use your platform. I guarantee there's automation ways, or there's ways to group people, maybe by date, maybe by amount. So I would definitely contact your email provider specifically. Debbie's asking a very specific question around Google Ad Grants, getting a hard time getting their website approved. I would reach out to one of us. We're a Google Grant partner, and getting their website approved. Sometimes a really low hanging fruit is just having your EIN number on your site, like making sure Google knows that you're a nonprofit and here's your tax ID. And then Deborah asks, should we approach monthly giving through employer the same as individuals that select? I don't know if I fully understand the question, Deborah, if you don't mind typing it in a different verbiage, but it sounds like you're trying to target your employees the same as individuals, but again, feel free to re-put it back in there. But great. And so just to, really take a second and think about the key takeaways here, make monthly giving a priority. I know that a lot of nonprofits talk about it, but it truly is sustained support. It diversifies your donor base, and there's just higher retention rates. I promise it is worth it. And we're living in an age where a lot of us have monthly subscriptions anyways. And really treat your program like a membership. What am I getting in return? Again, it doesn't have to be a t-shirt or a cup or a pen, just a little bit further than the individual kind of one-time donor, exclusive access, maybe a specific newsletter, something like that. And then really make your donor feel part of community of a community. Take your time with storytelling, with your landing page, with your email series, and your name will just come easier as well. And then lastly, have a plan to market and scale it. Like I said, you can spend all this time, but it makes no sense unless you get it out there and people know of this work. And it could be through something simple as an email, kind of blast, letting people know of it, but we highly recommend an ads approach. I would first start with Facebook / Instagram ads, then YouTube, then Google Ad Grants if you guys had to prioritize. So that is it, everyone. I hope that was super helpful. Obviously, if you guys are interested in contacting us, I was a part of creating this recurring giving program. We're having kind of a new round of recurring giving partners at the end of quarter one. But regardless, you guys can reach out to us, kind of understand our program. And then also we have this really cool year-end fundraising guide, which I highly recommend everyone looking into. It's around the corner, Giving Tuesdays here, so feel free to check that out. I will go ahead and check the Q&A here, and please feel free to put them in as well. Sarah asks, is there a site that helps you to see who's eligible for donor matching? Are you talking, if you're talking about like employer matching, then there is one called Double the Donation where, and I want to say it's like Match 360, where they like have an integration. I don't know who they integrate with, but you're able to type in your employer and see if they actually do matching, which is cool. Again, they are called Double the Donation. And then Deborah re-asked her question. Thank you. Individuals that make donations through their employer deduction versus those that go to the website to select. I would approach it the same, in the sense that people just don't know of your program if they don't know. But having an integration like Double the Donation will help them understand if their employer actually matches with that. And then, awesome. And then Trisha, your question was actually how to set up recurring giving. Is there something specifically that you want guidance on in terms of like know-hows? Or like tech integrations. If you have questions around that, I can definitely answer that. And then Karen, I wasn't too sure if there's questions in the chat I can answer. The slides will be emailed.
Yeah. It looks like Megan asked, our org is trying to soft launch a recurring giving program on Giving Tuesday. Do you recommend this?
Yeah, I mean, just make it clear that the option is there and make sure it's in your copy. I would definitely recommend telling people before Giving Tuesday, like, hey, Giving Tuesday is up. This year, we are now promoting monthly giving because it is more sustained support for us and you can give at a lower monthly cost. So again, I would definitely tell your donors before Giving Tuesday, and then think about your donor experience on your site. Is the monthly donor option just a click? Because I don't know how many people actually click on it, or is it automatically what they see, which I highly recommend within another option for one time.
Okay, and then another one from David asking suggestions or ideas for stewardship and recognition of recurring donors.
I think some ideas would be potentially social media posts where if you do have their profile, it's like, hey, we want to highlight one of our monthly donors. We just want to say thank you. You could also feature them in your email series, which might be fun. It might like make me as a donor like check my emails a bit more. And another one is just maybe even creating ads around, hey, we've grown our community this big, our monthly givers. We highly appreciate you and we can't wait to, connect with you in a deeper way. So I would say social media posts, paid ads, and in your email, like actually feature them individually and or just as a group to your whole kind of profile. So they kind of feel special. And then the other group is like, oh, wait, that's kind of fun. And, I want to be involved.
Awesome. And Lucy says, my org is doing a membership as our monthly giving and started in the new year. Do you think it's necessary to give a one-time gift to these new members?
Like a I guess, like, are you thinking of like a t-shirt to these members? I don't know if I fully understand the question.
She said essentially, yes.
Okay. You can, but it's opportunity cost. Not everyone cares like about a t-shirt or a mug. Sometimes just making sure that they feel a little bit special, where it's like, hey, you're a monthly giver, have exclusive access to our gala, to this event at a discounted rate. You can, of course, send them it, but also be careful how many, recurring donors do you have? Is it like 100 of them, 100 t-shirts? That might cost you more than, just think about it. If it's small, maybe it's worth it. And something that's cheap, effective, and people love is video in the email. You can use Loom or something where just one time you record one video where it's like, hey, I appreciate you joining our monthly giving program. It means so much to us. This is what you'll get. I hope you enjoy the experience. Just one video that you record and that you put into your email series.
Okay, and one from Angela says, can you talk a little bit about logo creation? What do you mean by this? Create a separate logo for monthly donors.
That's a good question. So we have in the past created a separate logo for recurring givers. Again, this is optional. It just kind of helps like create like a branded approach, or you don't have to at all. It's simply an option if you guys have capacity to do so.
All right. You guys have more questions? Keep them coming. We do have some time to continue answering them.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I want to talk about is some tech integration. There's obviously a lot of CRMs out there. And I would ask your CRMs and or donor processors if it's possible to have monthly giving as the like the automated option, because sometimes if it's just a little check mark, not a lot of people will do it. If you create a landing page, clearly it needs to be only for monthly giving options, but especially with year end around the corner, make sure that your landing page and or donor processor has that option automatically checked, so people have to uncheck it. There are some that we do recommend. You guys can reach out to us on those recommendations. A lot of CRMs partner with specific ones that are great for monthly giving processors, but there are some that we do recommend personally and that we've just seen great results in.
And someone asked what Loom was. I dropped a link to the Loom homepage in that little Q&A answer section. So if anybody's interested in looking into Loom, the link is in there.
Yeah, thank you. Loom is essentially like a video recording. I guess it's not so much an app, but there are other ones out there where it's like you'll just see my face and I can create like a video and just send it in an email, and it could just be like in your email, which is really cool and a very cheap, effective way to be really personalized with your donors. Sweet. Yeah, Kate said that they just signed on with ThankView. Yeah, I haven't heard of them. Awesome. Well, we'll give just a minute or two for more questions. Hopefully it was helpful. Again, feel free to reach out to us for any suggestions, how we actually partner with orgs around these CRM recommendations as well. I'm just going through the chat to see if we got any questions.
Yeah, it looks like Andy. Yes, it is called Loom. You had it right. I'll go ahead and drop the link here too.
Yeah, and again, that's specifically just for video. Awesome.
Let's see. Do you have any data on the sign-up rates for monthly giving?
That's a good question. We don't specifically, but I would think about, again, the donor experience. Like, go to your own site, go to your donation button and see how easy it is for someone to give. Obviously, it fluctuates on the donor processor you use, right? How you're promoting it. If there's no language or there's no option on it, then that all affects your sign up rates. But once you kind of create a very specific program, market it properly, and again, have the donor processor be monthly giving, friendly, rates should naturally go up. Great, sounds like everyone found it helpful, which is always the goal.
All right, well, again, you will be getting a recording to the session and a PDF version of the deck, so you can go through that checklist, look at those steps once again, whenever you need to. And we're always here for questions. Feel free to reach out to the Community Boost team. We're always happy to help.
All right, thank you, everyone. And good luck with year end. Highly recommend you guys launching something around recurring giving during this time, definitely into the new year as well, when one-time donors, are happy with what they've done, but it's a great time to launch it too in January and February, where you're asking them to give more sustained support as well. So highly recommend you guys taking some time to do this. Thank you so much. Feel free to reach out again to us for more personalized strategy. And I hope everyone has an awesome, happy Thanksgiving.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Woo. That was awesome. Great job, Janae.
Thanks. Can people still hear us?
Yeah, it looks like there's still a couple people, but doesn't look like there's too many questions coming in.
Okay.
So I'll probably go ahead and close it down. So thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.